In this video, we are going to look at adding some field inputs, some tab focus management, as well as some scrollable areas to our groovy little TUI that doesn't really do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to create like a task list here in panel A. And we're going to have a little input at the bottom that adds to that guy. Pretty straightforward. So from PyTUI, we're going to bring in scrollbox renderable, input renderable, and input renderable events. We're going to bring in this type of just renderable. Each of these renderables extends this renderable type. We're also going to set up a quick type for ourselves called task. We're going to update our app state to have tasks. So it's going to have a new task title. And then we're going to use that to keep track of what somebody has typed into the input field. And for now, I think we're good there. So I'm also going to drop in some helpers I wrote. We've done this find descendant by ID a bunch of times, and we're going to end up doing it a bunch more times. So now what we could do is just say find, pass in the renderer, and we get the exact same result. So I'm going to update all of these to do that. Cool. So those are all cleaned up. And then I've got this empty because we've done this guy a few times. So let's find where we've done that. So here's an example right here. So now we're just going to say empty tab content. Okay, I actually think that's the only one, but I guess I'm hinting that we're going to do this some more. And then I'm going to leave this set focus alone for now. We'll come back to it. And for now, into our tasks, I'm going to drop a handful of tasks that match our type description. So we've got ID, title, status, priority, created at, and notes. So since we're in our panel A, that's where we're going to have our list. We're going to jump down here to build panel A. After the panel, we're going to set up this scroll box. So as the list gets longer, we need to be able to scroll it either with a mouse or with the keyboard. This will be a new scroll box renderable. Takes in the renderer and our options as usual. So I'm going to say ID is task list, flex grow of 1, focusable. It's going to be true. And we will come back to that. Border is true. Border style is rounded, and we've used that before. Now my border color is going to be transparent for now, because I'm going to have a focused border color, and that'll be theme blue. Okay, that may or may not be ideal, but we'll come back to it. So now we're going to, into our panel A, we're going to add our scroll box. Okay, we're going to set up a new box renderable. We'll call it controls. Say task controls, flex direction of row, padding top of 1. And again, these are just kind of things that I've already scoped out that we'll need. So there's our controls. And now we're going to create our input. So const add input equals new input renderable. And it works a lot like our other guys. So it takes in a renderer and some options. We're going to give it an ID of add input. This one can get a placeholder. So we'll say new task title. And we'll say enter to add. And then because this is inside panel A, I'm going to set the width to 90% just because I don't want it to go, I don't want it to overlap the border on the right of panel A. So we'll say width 90%. Now we want this to stand out from the dark background here. So we're going to say background color is theme.bg alt. We'll have a text color of theme.text. And then we'll also have a focus state for this. So we'll say focused background color is theme.bg panel. Cool. So we've got our input, we've got our controls where we're going to stick those guys. We're also going to do an add input on. So this is going to be our event listener. Say input renderable events dot change. So when that guy fires off, we're going to have a callback. It's going to take in a value, which is a string. And then we're going to update our new field, the new task title field, to equal the value. So that's where we can keep track of that guy. Okay, one more here, and this is for our enter. So on renderable events, we just say enter. So it's the actual key that's been pressed. Same thing, it's going to take in a value that's a string. We're going to grab that title from our app state. We're going to trim that guy. And just to be sure, we're going to say if we don't have a title, we'll just return out of this. Otherwise, we're going to create our new task. So we'll say appstate.tasks.push. Going to need an ID. I don't want to keep track of the IDs right now, so I'm just going to say string of date now. Have our title, a status, which for now we're going to say active since it's not complete. We've also got a priority, which we'll set to medium. We've got a created at, which will help us with some sorting later. That'll be new date. And then we have notes, and we'll just leave that empty for now. Okay, so we have our input. We have a change event, and we have an enter event. And we're not actually using this value. It's going to underscore that guy for now. So we'll say controls.add our add input. And then we'll say panel.add our controls. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We do have it down here. I can click on it and type in it. And technically something's probably happening, but we're not really going to see that yet. But I'm going to say after we push this into our list of tasks, we're going to update this to an empty string, our new task title, since we're done with it. And we're going to update our add input dot value to also be empty. So if I type in there and I hit enter, it empties it out. Now it has added to the list, but we aren't rendering that list yet. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to have a function called refresh. We'll say refresh task list. And that'll take in our renderer as usual. So we need to go create this guy. And I'm going to do it right after our build TUI. I don't know where it belongs. So refresh task list is a function. It's obviously taking in our renderer. We can say our scroll box is equal to and use our new helper here, pass in our renderer and task list. Say if we don't have that guy, we'll return out of this. If we do have it, what we're going to do is empty it. So we're really just completely re-rendering this. So at this point, it's totally empty. Now we'll get our tasks. We'll just make sure we have some. We'll say if we do, actually, let's say if we don't, we'll do something here. Otherwise, well, actually, we'll do something and then we'll return. And I guess let's go ahead and plug this in. We'll say scroll box, and we'll just add some text in there. So we'll say new text renderable, ID of no tasks, content of no tasks, and just for good measure, we'll do foreground of theme red. So we'll have some red text in there, and then we just return. Otherwise, all we got to do is cycle through these guys. So we'll do a for each on them. Say this is our task. We'll say scrollbox.add new text. Whoops. Text renderable. Give this an ID just in case we need it later of task-task.id. Content of the task title. Whoops. Sorry, I called that T. And then on this guy, we'll just stick with the normal blue. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So when we add a task, that list should actually show up, and there it is. But now we need it to show up when we first load the application if we have any tasks in there. And it pains me to do this, but the best way to do it is to create a set timeout here right after we start. And we'll just set that for 100 milliseconds. We're going to call refresh task list. So now when we load it, it actually loads up. I can type in here and say the thing, do more. And one thing that we have here is scrolling to some degree at least. So if I go here, we can see I can move up and down, or I can use the mouse to scroll that. You can also see that when I click on this guy, I get our focus state. And when I click on this guy, I get its focus state. But what I want to do is be able to hit tab and jump between those two focus states. The other problem we have, I believe, is when I go to stats or metrics and come back, our panel is empty. So let's address that first. And for that, we just need to come up to our tab select, where after we build the content area, we're going to say if the active tab is tasks, refresh the task list. So let's try that. There's our task list. We go right, we come back and it's there. Plug in a new guy, another one, a couple more. Then when we move to the right and we come back, there's our task list. Okay, so we're re-rendering it. We're refreshing it not only after we enter a new task when the application first loads, we're also doing it whenever we switch to the tasks tab. Okay, so let's address the focus problem. And for that, I'm going to uncomment this guy, set focus. It's using our find, and it just adds focus onto it. Now, I do have app state focus, which we don't have in our app state yet. So we're going to say focus, and this is going to be our initial focus. So I'm just going to say app input. And then we're also going to have a list of things that are focusable within our application. So we're actually going to track this in our app state. Which things can we tab to? So if we want to see our focus helper working right away, we'll come over here to our tab selector. And when you come back to the task, we want to set the focus to add input. So back to task, and you can see it's focused there. Now when I focus up here, go to stats, come back, our focus is back on the input. So our set focus helper is working. So we're going to come down to our setup keyboard events, and we're going to add a new one. And this is going to be key name equals tab. I'm not going to really worry about tab shift right now, but that's probably a nice to have later. So I'm going to call this cycle, and that's our list of focusable elements from our app state. Say const current is either equal to app state dot focus. Otherwise, we'll default for now to add input. Now we just need to figure out if you press tab and we know what the current is, what is the next thing? And I know right now we only have two things, but I don't want to say if it's not this, then do that. So I actually want to cycle through the array of what we've defined as focusable elements. So we'll say const next is equal to cycle. So that's our list of focusable elements right now. And we'll say cycle dot index of, we'll take our current plus 1, and then we'll just mod that by cycle dot length. So that'll prevent us from ever going outside of the array. So then all we need to say is set focus, pass in our renderer and our next, and just in case we don't have anything, we'll just throw on an empty string, and then we're going to refresh our task list. So if we're tabbing back, actually that might be overkill, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then we can just return, since we don't want to continue cycling through these. So let's take a look really quick. If I tab, I'm on the doodad. If I tab. So pretty much anywhere that we're doing refresh task list, that's not entirely true. But we definitely want to do it at the very beginning. I think I've got a typo somewhere. Let's jump up to this cycle logic. Yeah, you know what? I should wrap these guys up before we do the mod. See if that fixes things. Okay, there we go. So I can tab to the task interface or the task list, and I can tab to my guy down here, and everything seems to be working just fine. If I move away from this and come back, we are immediately focused on the input. Cool. So now the other thing I want to address here is we have a lot going on in this single file. So what I want to try to do is move some of this out. So let's say starting with app state, say refactor and move to a new file. So there's our app state. Let's take this guy and we'll move it to a new file. Now I called it task, but I'm going to rename that to types, which we'll need in our app state. And then these three right here, I'm going to refactor those to a new file, like a utility file. Call that utils. Utils. We'll create a new folder. We'll call it components. And we're just going to identify any components that don't really need, that aren't really coupled with all of this state and things happening in the application. So right off the bat, I'm thinking the header and the footer. Let's build footer. We will refactor that to a new file. I'm going to throw that in components. And we'll go get our build header. We'll do the same thing. And we'll create one more for, we'll call it handlers. We'll get our resizer. Throw that into handlers. And it looks like everything is working just as it should. We can tab between these guys. Everything's groovy.